When Ralph Buche said that United Nations is our last hope for a secure and a free world, we could not agree more to that. And to justify same, I, Himanshi Kaushik, your host of the day, would like to welcome you all in today's webinar on role of humanities in achieving United Nations goals. And I hope that you all are doing fine, safe, sound, and happy at wherever you're taking this webinar from. So before we move on and learn a lot more about the humanity that is involved in United Nations goals, we have our expert here with us. So I shall introduce you to our expert. We have Dr. Pavitra Prakash Singh, sir, and Professor, Dean, and School of Social Sciences and Languages, lovely professional university here with us. A leader, a mentor, and an accomplished professor with a career spanning over 26 years with a rich and diverse experience in the industry, teaching, and research. Dr. Singh has undertaken and supervised over 162 academic and seven consultancy projects throughout his career. He has presented over 50 research papers in various national and international conferences and seminars of repute. So, sir, I heartily welcome you in the webinar.
Thank you, Humani.
So pleasure is ours. And with equal respect, we have our second expert in here, Dr. Gurjeet Kaur, Assistant Professor, School of Liberal and Creative Arts, lovely professional university. She is a self-motivated, hardworking, and a magnetic personality who has done her PhD in Russian security paradigm under Vladimir Putin. She is eager to use her experience of more than 10 years in different institutions for betterment of humanity. She has her interests in international politics, democracy, gender, geopolitics, and others as well. She has published several publications under reputed journals and has done several conferences, workshops, and seminars as well. She has multiple skills of leadership, oratory, and problem solving. So, ma'am, I sincerely welcome you also in the webinar. And now I would like to urge and request Pavitra sir to kindly please take on the screen, and over to you.
Thank you, Himanshi. Your name is very different and very good. God bless you. Have a very nice day. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to discuss humanities in relation to United Nations and further to its development goal. I, along with my esteemed colleague, Dr. Gurjeet, will try to ponder on something that what is United Nations, how they have the development goals, how they were converted into sustainable development goal, how humanities is contributing to achieving this, how at LPU we are doing some kind of a thing which is helping the students to understand and appreciate the role of United Nations, the importance of humanities in achieving those kind of goals and further thereof. So let's take some kind of initiation. Majority of us must be doing different organizations which are working at different platforms internationally, like WTO, World Bank, IMF, or few others. But we have a topic which is related to United Nations. United Nations, what is United Nations? For that, I'll invite my esteemed colleague, Dr. Gurjeet, to ponder for a minute or two on United Nations.
Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon, all of you. Okay, so United Nations, in very simple terms, United Nations is the closest humanity has ever gotten to having an international level government, a government beyond your national government. So, like in a village, we have a panchayat and a sarpanch. In cities, we have mayors, municipalities. At provincial level or state level, we have state governments, and national level, we have national governments. So when all these national governments, initially they were only 45, but later on, jaise karwa chalta gaya, they kept on joining, and now United Nations is an organization with 193 nations as its members. And as sir rightly mentioned, the WTO, IMF, so these were the Bretton Woods institutions So UN is slightly different. It's like an overarching governing institutions, even above the Bretton Woods institution. So they deal with the economic aspect of the world governance, whereas the UN has so many agencies and organs that deal with from culture to the governance to policy to technology, social welfare. So UN is like an overarching world government that deals with the collective problems humanity
So the
faces.
United Nations also has its origin somewhere around near World War only.
Yes, sir.
World War II.
Yes, sir. As the Bretton Woods institutions, UN was founded in 1945, and if we remember, all of us, the Second World War ended in that year. So after such a level of devastation that humanity had witnessed, and around 40 million people just perished in that war due to direct or indirect causes of war, and the situation was even worse for the countries that were the colonies of these superpowers. So during that time, there was a general push that we should avoid such world wars in future. We should never have a chance in future where we are at each other's throats at such huge level over the disagreement, no matter the disagreements, they can be economic, political, or whatever.
United Nations often we say that it is a dog without teeth. Is it so?
Well, it is so in a way, like it depends upon where you are standing. So United Nations, yes, it failed from, I won't say failed, it had some limited success in terms of implementing world peace, and that, see, it's a voluntary organization. So the principle of sovereignty, which is like a country's legal right over its external and internal affairs. So that sovereignty principle has always been the main driving principle. So, and then the second is, in the world, the power is not uniformly distributed. So,
The
yeah.
reason why I'm asking, I took the surprise question over here was because a few days back I was reading newspaper and there was a news somewhere. I think I was glancing through a newspaper or a news channel. They said that even United Nations is finding it very difficult to feed people in Ukraine during Ukraine-Russia war. So I was saying, are they having some kind of a power uh,
Yes, sir.
to dominate or power to
Yes, sir.
make their
Despite
calls?
this limitation of sovereignty, the special limitation on UN is, I mean, it's kind of ironic because Ukraine was one of the largest contributors to the food programs
Food
of
program,
the UN.
yeah.
So now, because of that, the production of the food
Yeah.
grain is impacted. So that's one of the reasons that it is difficult. So it's
Around
like
30% of the wheat is exported from Russia, Ukraine, and 80% of there is
Yes, sir.
there are
So
data.
majority the food
Yeah.
stock was from Ukraine. So it's like they're not being
If
able
you
to-
allow me, can I show that slide?
Yes, yes, please, of
I
course,
think
sir.
we'll have to jump short one or two slides over here.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
Ukraine crisis, food shortage. 30% of total food production of wheat is from
Ukraine.
Ukraine and Russia. 20% of maize, 80% of other kind of a thing. So they were also finding it very difficult.
Yes, sir. That's precisely the reason. Like it's the irony of or tragic irony of Ukraine we are facing today.
And then moving on to from United Nations, we moved on to United Nations Sustainable Development. As each organization has to have certain kind of a vision or a goal. Goals are some kind of milestone where we must aspire. The same way United Nations also aspired with certain kind of goals which they often referred as SDG. Now they are the integral part of curriculum, integral part of all kind of corporation. People have to do activities. People must understand and appreciate the cause why SDGs was there. So the same way, United Nations adopted 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal, where 16 were basically, if we try to see, 16 were the goals and 17 was a partnership for all the goals. So these were certain kind of goals which United Nations are having, like they have a milestone that people should have not live in poverty. The first SDGs, and these SDGs are numbered. That means no poverty cannot come at 16. So no poverty is one. Then zero hunger. People should not sleep empty bellies. They should have something to feed for themselves. The mental being and good health and well-being is also one of the most important SDGs they are focusing, because we say a healthy mind reside in a healthy body. So if we have a healthy body, then definitely healthy mind will be there. And if a healthy mind is there, definitely SDG 4 come into play, the quality education. Then we can have more Newtons presented, more Einsteins in over there. That's why we are lacking in some kind of a thing. And if you try to see, starting from no poverty, zero hunger, good health, quality education, gender, clean and this clean energy, affordable energy, uh, then decent work. These are certain kind of SDGs which United Nations says that people should go into. Like we have been hearing of few corporates, very political to mention the name. I not like to mention the name of the corporates, but we often say SDG C, SDG 8. That the people who are working over there, they are not very comfortable. These are big corporates, big multinational corporates who are having the employees, and the employees says that it is very indecent, very hostile, very unhygienic, or very different kind of environment over there. People do not have a good environment to work. So if there is no decent work, then definitely economic growth is going to take a turn. And again, we can go back to SDG 1, where is no poverty, then there will be hardly any kind of a job. The same way we have our industry, innovation or infrastructure, industry, these are called triple I's. If industry is there, industry always cannot sustain on dead wood. It needs to create new wood. That means new innovation need to come up. Like we have been seeing Windows. Windows was there in the earlier versions, then 92, 95, 2000. Same is happening with MS Office. Same we are seeing with so many mobile phones. Every day there is a different, new, better version of the same company mobile handset is produced. So sustainable development goal is also like that. We must need to create different kind of innovation. A very particular book is there, when I think during erstwhile Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh's Prime Ministership, there was one word which was added into Oxford Dictionary, that was called jugaad. So jugaad is an Indian word, but now it is finding its place in the Oxford Dictionary. That what is jugaad? So the innovation, it's a domestic, it's a at home, grown home kind of innovations. Ravi Nijadu has also has written a book by name Jugaad, and it's a very good book. It talks about how industry is doing certain kind of innovation at small scale or medium scale enterprises. Definitely, better industries, bigger industries are doing. And when industry is looking for innovation, definitely we need to have infrastructure in the form of dams, where the water can be directed to sufficient places. The lands can be fertile with exact and due usage of water. Roads should be there. The bridges should be there. The connectivity should be there, so that all genders can move in from one place to other, have access to hospitals, have access to education, have access to transportation, have access to food grains or other. So these are few sustainable goals. Others may, Gurjeet may add to few others.
Yes, sir.
Which
While
are
you
there.
were covering all these goals, I mean, just look at the area. They are so diverse, and thank you, sir, for like putting them all in place for us. Like even if you go from 1 to 17, so they're all connected at their core. I mean, they're emphasizing some level of consensus. And UN development goals, from poverty to peace, justice, and strong institutions. So at the heart of them is that what humans were before and how we can be better in future, and in that betterment, how we can equally benefit everyone. So if we have reduced inequalities on one hand, on the other side, we are also talking about climate change. So not only reducing inequalities among people, but also treating the environment as a living counterpart in this system we are a part of. So I think that's very innovative way of bringing a lot of things together. Now that brings us to why are they important? As Sir has already highlighted, a collective consensus of all of us is needed. So education institutions will have to come forward, the industries will have to come forward, the governments, the common people like you and me as stakeholders. Like we all have multiple identities. I am a woman, I am somebody's daughter, I am somebody's friend, I'm somebody's employee, I'm somebody's teacher. So all these identities, so it's like consensus within a human being. So I can't just go to my class and preach ethics if I do not follow them in my life. And if my life is not sustainable, I'm not following consumer ethics, then I'm not going to tell my students, no matter how much I tell them, they're not going to follow. So that kind of a consensus the SDGs are trying to build. And so that brings me to like, how do humanities fit in all this? Like, what are humanities for our audience there? And how do they fit in with the UN development goals?
Very right. So this is the another bead into the thread we are trying to weave, that if there is United Nations, if there is sustainable goal, how humanities enter into it. Gurjeet, if we try to see over here the sustainable goals, these all travel for, let's say for example, third one, good health and well-being. Now this is an integral part of psychology. At psychology lies the essence or the spirit of psychology is that one should be peace with his mind and body. So see the role of humanities playing into SDGs, how humanities can take SDGs to a better ending. The same way quality education. Now education is one of the important aspects of sociology of all the humanities. Gender equality that we are doing and teaching in sociology, that is the crux of sociology. The structure of a group, the structure of a society, that's the gender. Decent work and economic growth, which is a part of economics. If we talk about affordable and clean energy, that's part of geography. So if we try to see humanities, this is an integral part of all the domains, starting from the width of literature, understanding language, understanding to psychology, to geography, to history. If we are not able to understand the history, how are we going to appreciate what is required in the future to come? So history is a history tomorrow. History is a history when we are living the moment. As soon as this movement is gone, this will become a history. Today is a present. So linguistic, political science, anthropology, how the societies have been formed, how the cultures have been formed, how the education is taking care of all these. So if we try to see these all SDGs, these are covered through some kind of form of all the aspects of humanities. So this is so far why humanities is very important for SDGs. All the technical courses either take care of the making of aeroplanes, the making of automobiles, talking about non-technical courses. If we recall the time earlier, it used to be the non-medical, medical, and arts. So humanities is nothing but a arts kind of a shape. So that is how humanities and social sciences are associated with SDGs.
And that takes me to a couple of examples. Just so everybody, I assume that everybody.
Are we visible and audible?
Visible now? Okay, good. Thank you. So everybody in the audience, I think, is aware about this name, Alfred Nobel. So he was a scientist who came upon the idea of dynamite. So dynamite sticks, if we know, their initial usage was to make clear the mountains, like clear the paths out of mountains, so that we can make otherwise remote areas accessible to the mainstream, so we can connect people. And later on, some strategists came up with this idea that dynamite is also very destructive, so it causes huge explosions, and if you put some iron shield around it, it will just be very explosive and very destructive. So we know the use of dynamite in both the world wars. So humanities is the difference. Learning humanities as the UN goal is to make a better world for all of us. So humanities is basically dynamite in itself is value free. It is an innovation. So the usage of that innovation can be very constructive and very destructive. So psychology, history. Now, if we have studied history, we are less likely to recommend dynamite, and we are more likely to resolve conflicts with diplomacy, right?
That's the importance of humanities in
Yes.
goals.
So, and if we know psychology, we know the from one side, it's not just loss of limb. You also suffer from PTSD. Your family suffers, and then by extension, the society suffers. So psychology is also there. So in the usage of dynamite, there can be 7 different studies from psychology to political science. Political science obviously will tell you the policy, how we can make the most constructive use, and then that will be put out into the field of sociology for a public discussion on it. So that's just one example. The second can be artificial intelligence. Yes, sir. It's
Please.
very in a topic today. Like we have Chat GPT and
Bard and others. Bard.
Bard by Google, I think.
Google.
Yeah, Bard by Google. So it's like these are the programs, and they're writing poetry as good as we can, and they're just there. So the thing is, again, AI in itself is value free. So we can use it to clean the ocean from where a large supply of fish comes, and the communities, local coastal communities depend on it. Or we can use it to do something very, very destructive, or maybe snoop on our own citizens or the citizens of some other country. So humanities are the difference.
Teaches you the difference between how to utilize it constructively rather than destructively.
And so I think that's the reason that now a lot of companies, not just the government, they are going for people from humanities who have qualitative and quantitative methods at their disposal to tell the companies about how this particular policy is going to be, or this product is going to be of utility to public.
Because at the end of the day, we are talking about United Nations, and United Nations is a policy maker kind of a thing, which is implementing it also.
Yes,
so sustainable goals, when you are talking about corporates recruiting humanities, means they are looking for people who can emotionally attach, also do certain kind of human aspects. I think another point over here is CSR also. The corporate social responsibility also comes very handy in over there, where they are contributing something back to the society, but they have taken from the society.
Yes, sir. So
Gurjeet, how we are doing, how we are helping, or how we are teaching, or how we are transmitting or disseminating the knowledge of SDGs through humanities at LPU. Can you throw some light on it? How are we actually doing it?
Yes, sir. Like as a teacher and as a researcher, every day I come in contact with SDGs being implemented at the campus in some form or the other. And apart from my own interactions and the very conventional teaching mechanism we are all aware about through syllabus and all. So we tried to map them with the SDGs, and we were getting very positive results of that. And apart from that, I can mention with the ascendance on class, we also teach our students some skills, some research skills, so that they at a very beginning they go out and they learn. They not just from the books, but from the people, from their experiences. Experiential learning is the part of our
Any
overall
SDG, any project you can mention which has touched any SDG?
Oh, yes, sir. Plenty actually. I'll start with the community development project. Last year, we know we were in the middle of the pandemic, and we saw that, and 5 students. So we in community development project in graduation first year, we give our students, we divide them into 5 groups, and we take care of this diversity as well. That these people should be from diverse backgrounds in terms of culture and all. So they are put together, they go out in the society and they do a community development project. So students that worked under me, that group went out in Jalandhar, and of course by following all the protocols and all, they tried to assess that how overwhelmed the health services were during the COVID, and they collected data, they interviewed people, and yeah, and they came up with this, that we need to take health services to the doorsteps of the people, because sometimes they just lack access. So I think you the other day you also mentioned something like this.
That was regarding the Masters of Social Welfare. We are some social work which we are running over here. So it's a part of their teaching. They were visiting certain villages and doing some kind of a survey. When they met the people in over there, they collected data, and they found out that when they interacted with elders, they found out that they were not having any access to old age pension. So they filled in their form, picked their petitions, and went to the DC. And fortunately, we will say it's the luck of the students also, and fortunately the learning of the student also that way around, that within 15 days or 30 days, the process was completed, and the old age people who were not having access to all the networks and other things, they start getting certain kind of a correspondence that their pension will be starting very soon. So that's
like
a kind of a
not just research, but also translating into policy and
deliverance, which definitely helps certain kind of goals which United Nations always aspire as uh, good health, well-being, no poverty, hunger. If they are not having access to that kind of a pension, because old age pension is for a different cause. If they are not having access, definitely they must have been sleeping with empty tummies or something. So people are doing in something. And at the highest level, has some kind of research being done at LPU for SDG, gender equality, or the third, or the
yes, sir.
gender
yes, sir. As I told you, like in a sentence level. So first is the community development program. Then we have term papers. Then we have dissertations and dissertation at PG level, and then we have PhD research. So that reminds me, like gender equality is one of the SDGs goal. So the traditional debate of gender has been always like men versus women, and how women being the 50% of the population still do not have enough wealth, like most of the wealth is still with the men, and political representation. We all know about the waves of feminism, how they fought for political rights, economic, social rights. So this is the traditional part of the debate. Now the debate is about the entire concept of gender, as in like what about the people who are not the part of traditional genders? Like what about the third genders, the transgenders we call them? So at LPU, in a Punjabi department, there was this research, behavioral study of third gender community of Punjab. So the scholar actually went out and interviewed the third gender community of Punjab. If you are aware, the third gender community has their own social code with which they live by. Yeah. So they have this Karanas. The scholar actually went to different Karanas, traced their origins, and compared how they've been living, and how actually, like before the British, third gender were not that secluded from the society. It's like the colonization and the European ethics. They did the othering process, and then they led to the marginalization. So it was a very interesting work that was done.
Any research activities, as you were saying that we are discussing a topic of SDGs and humanities. At LPU, how are we addressing SDGs through certain platforms which are visible and seen by others? Any conferences which are happening around?
Yes, sir. Like mostly all our domains, they at least have one conference per year. We've started it recently. So one conference comes to mind, and I think it yeah, it relates to the health and well-being. Since you
Okay.
mentioned it, so I'm covering it here. So the conference's title is Holistic Health and Well-being. So just like, see, at the heart of SDGs is in the matter of their goals being diverse, but one. The one is betterment of humanity. Then humanities, different domains, but the goal is how to utilize our resources better for our betterment. Similarly, in psychology, so the psychology is the domain that is doing this conference.
Okay.
So their focus is holistic health, how to reconcile the mind with the body.
The pure SDG third we are talking.
Yes, sir.
Good
So
health and well-being.
yeah, so the oneness of the well-being.
Well-being.
So it's not like that physical health. The injection might work better if the person is convinced that it will work better.
Gurjeet,
So-
this is Dr. Gurjeet.
It's perfectly all right, sir. Come on.
We are talking about psychology and few other things. When we are talking about United Nations, these are common platforms which are central to the central authorities. International presence is there. How is political science or public art department doing or preparing something or contributing something to the society in the form of the
Yes, sir.
awareness, creating awareness about SDGs or something?
Yes, sir. So the political science department, like apart from the research and the syllabus and everything, we also organize regular discussions, debates, quiz competitions, and if we are allowed to share the PPT, we can show you the pictures of our debates and discussions. So it's like a series of topics that are directly related to the uh, goal number 16, that is peace, justice, and strong institutions. So the discussions we've had are just a couple of them I'll have to recall. One is globalization, its pros and cons. As the power hierarchy we know in the international affairs, so it's simple, like it's the simple
And
rule of thumb.
fortunately, I am also reading a book by Naomi Klein.
Yes, it's
The
like
No Logo is the book name of the
No logo. So yes, in this era of interdependence, how are interdependence if we are dealing with the partners who are unequal in power? So how they will strike a bargain that is mutually beneficial for both. So on that we had a very elaborate discussion. All around 80 to 90 students of the department, they participated in it, and some of the faculties also joined, and to our surprise, some of the students of management also came and they just sat with us because they had some free classes. So it was a very fruitful discussion. Then we also had a British parliamentary structured debate on Russia and Ukraine. So Russia's violation of international law. So as I told you that this anomaly of sovereignty versus world government. So Russia is doing it, violating other countries' sovereignty, which is a violation of international law. But it is able to justify it because of the history of the international relations.
Very
for
good.
certain ways. So our students
So,
made some really nice
very great.
progress
That
there.
means the relationship of humanities and SDGs is okay. Now there may be a last question kind of a thing in the mind of everyone that we are teaching this as a concept, but how about the employability? So if we try to say good health and well-being as the third SDG, we are teaching psychology. If we are teaching them, we are offering many programs in over there in all the domains of psychology, starting from forensic, general psychology, clinical psychology. We are asking them to work as independent counselors or others, which always help to SDG 1 as low poverty. When we are talking about sociology, the NGOs are there to take our students, like we had a MOU with Guj, I shared it with you earlier.
Yes,
also, Guj and few others, and hospitals, so many hospitals we had MOU. Even in the conference which you are referring day after tomorrow, I think that conference is holistic well-being psychology. The director of the registrar academics of Oswald Cancer Hospital is also coming as a keynote speaker in over here. When we are talking about the affordable and clean energy, geography domain gives a scope to for employability over there through their physical, through their natural or other kind of courses, things in over there. We often have a cell established in over there. Over here in all these schools, we have a cell. That's an entrepreneurship cell. Where in the morning, I think you were also there
Yes,
in the
sir,
meeting where one of our student has got three of our students have their projects working as an entrepreneur they are into, and one of the student of the other school, multimedia school, is fetching a money of around 160 crore, which he has refused. He is searching for 200 crore rupee of evaluation kind of a thing. And sustainable cities and community, which is also another SDG, finds its application or finds its use or finds its employability in the form of geography.
So I think I can it logically assume that gone are the days when social sciences people were branded that you can only go to government jobs.
Government jobs.
So it's like they're being, our students are being entrepreneurs, they are being placed into data analytical companies.
Yeah,
Somebody was
data
telling me a
analytical.
company was coming for recruitment here for data analytics and
Marketing, data
Marketing.
analytics, hospitals, the interns at different government offices. One of my student has also gone, is going to ISRO for doing internship in over there. So these are variety of certain kind of options. So today we have discussed what is United Nations sustainable goals, what is the importance of goals, how is humanity related to it, and what is the scope of employability through them, or what at LPU we are doing different to help the students understand the SDGs and the relationship of humanities. With this, we will like to take questions if there are any. Himanshi, you may help us with questions if there are.
Yes, sir. So before we take up the questions, I'd like to thank you and ma'am, of course, for this great session, for discussing all the things that are necessary under United Nations policies that we can have. And sir, with this, we have few questions. So first, I would like to take up Tasdeeq's question. So Tasdeeq says that so his question is, as per 16th goal, which is peace and justice, but recently about Russia-Ukraine tussle, we saw not much interest about the respective states as far as UN is concerned. Were much sustainable goals came into effective example. Okay, I think, sir, Tasdeeq wants to know that what UN as a nation has done, in Russia and Ukraine war. If you could maybe show some light on this.
First of all, United Nations is not a nation. United Nations is an organization. And that was what I started as United Nations is a dog without teeth. So it's looking in for certain kind of stronger teeth. But yes, United Nations is not over there for solving the issues. United Nations is over there for providing the solutions to certain common
threats to
common
humanity.
threats to, like if there is food not available, they will do some kind of, if there is not medicine available, they will like to make it. Yes, United Nations as an international organization can make a pressure, but as such, Tasdeeq, your question is very valid. You are talking about United Nations. We can even question bigger organizations in the form of NATO or
and I think here
few others also.
Yes, and I think since it coincidentally it pertains to my area of expertise, that is Russian studies.
Yeah.
So the UN's role, you have to look at the history as well, right? Historically, UN has played very limited role whenever it has been an open conflict. So once it gets to an open conflict, the UN resolutions act as political pressure points. So for how long a country is able to, water that or bear that pressure, that's up to them. And along with that, West and NATO have come to the sanctions. So
Yeah.
in this kind of an impossible situation where there is one country that is openly saying that their nuclear warheads must be kept ready, they can be called upon action at any time. I think the world community has been very responsibly reacting to that, because we cannot indulge someone's war mongering. Russia has its reasons. Of course, the spearheaders of the world order after the end of Cold War were the US, and we saw what happened in Iraq. No international law was respected there. UN said that no action on Iraq, but US formed a coalition of the willing. So Russia is finding that justification while it is attacking Ukraine, saying that you didn't respect. So Russia is what we call a revisionist power. The liberals in international relations call it a revisionist power. So it is there to revise the global order of things. So we have to look at this conflict from several points. And yes, you're very right that UN can only play very limited role.
Very limited.
So, but in terms of SDGs, it has managed to convince and bring a lot of different countries together and a lot of different stakeholders, like the
And you were
corporate-
saying
yes.
we started with 43, but now around 190 plus countries
Countries
member
are
of
there.
UN.
So of course, being the part of UN benefits the countries. It brings them closer to other countries for
Very
cooperation. But it has limited power in the open bilateral direct military conflicts. You're very right in that. International law is very ambiguous and it is subject to sovereignty principles.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for resolving this query. And sir, with this, we have another query, of course, from an anonymous attendee, and it says, different policies in India receive backlash. And are they really worth of that, or do public need to be more radical with actions? Asking for an expert advice.
Okay, asking for an expert advice, I'm sorry, you'll have to repeat the
They
question.
say all majority of the Indian policies go backfire, or they do not implement well. I think that's the essence of question.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I think for that, I'd like to recommend a book. If you have time, do read this book by Atul Kohli, State-Led Development Models.
Yesterday we were discussing.
Yesterday, we were just on a casual tea time discussion. We were discussing this. The political economist is Atul Kohli. So there are things that are done in a democratic country in a different way. So the policies that receive backlash, so there is a theoretical aspect involved here as well. So India is a parliamentary form of government. So in parliament, the executive is part of legislature, and every time the executive party or the group of parties, they have a lot of members there. So they are in a position of power to influence to limit the hours of discussion in the parliament. So because it can be their ambition, so let's get all these policies through. So they get in this rush that let's get all these policies through as quickly as possible because we have some election to consider, or all the motivations of a political power, a political party we're aware of. So the thing is, so the one thing is, if you read Atul Kohli's book, he
I've
clearly
mentioned
tells
the
you.
name of the book in the chat box for us.
Yes. So there he mentions that in India, nothing can be done without the public support because we are a very diverse country and the ethics of democracy are in all of us. So no matter whether your policy is well thought out or it is rushed, it is going to get debated upon. It is going to slow down your rate of ambition. So we can have an entire separate discussion on the validity of the policy because those are very subject specific. But in general terms, we can say that India cannot be, let's say, Singapore or South Korea, where if you want, or China for that matter, if you want to build a hospital, you can build it in 10 days because that would involve violation of a lot of human rights. Clearing the land, India follows all that. So in that way, we might not catch up with China today, but tomorrow
being a huge democracy and where the respect of where all have a right to vote, where equal right to vote, may slow the spirits of making the laws as well as implementing the laws. But nowhere I like to differ. A sweeping statement can be there that policies are not implemented in India. Yes, policies are implemented. There are many good policies. You can take number of examples. But at the same time, there may be few examples here and there where the policies have taken their own time to implement and taken their own slow pace. That's part and parcel of.
Yes, and theoretical justification for that is that whenever executive is there, they are in position to limit the number of hours of discussion just by simple sheer majority. So even some of their policies which might not be perceived as well thought out, they eventually get into public domain and they face resistance. We've seen this happen.
So that's a part and parcel of the system.
Being the part of a democracy, but such vibrant and huge.
Sorry, a sweeping statement that policies in India are difficult to implement, not possible.
I mean, look at the success of NREGA.
So many.
And all this Indo-US nuclear deal. Now it was it took 5 years. 5 years. It started in 2004, and the government was also not saved. Like Vajpayee government started, Manmohan Singh took the initiative, and they kept on discussing it. It finally passes in 2007. Finally gets implemented in the time period of second time period of
2011.
11 years. So things take time. When we are this huge country, we have to bring everyone together, and that I think that's the strength of India.
That's
not a limitation. Rest the book can cover.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And I hope all participants, you can read the book and get more of the maybe resolution of this particular.
And we'll share this PPT also with you, Himanshi. You must have
Yes.
certain enrolled students. You can always share this PPT with them.
Definitely, sir. Okay. So with this, we have another question, and yeah, the question read is humanities very groundbreaking term, but how can we use this to improve the thought process? Also, can humanity be learned, or is it something that we have inbuilt in us?
We both may have all different answers. I'll give answer in one liner. That in humanities, I think in my discussions I have shared. The engineering produced aeroplanes and automobiles. The pharmacies produce certain medicines and doctors. I produce social engineers. At humanities, we produce social engineers who are the engineer, who are the catalyst for the change in society. We bring in people like Anna Hazare, we bring in people like all the different NGOs. I'm not favorite of Ruskin Bond. So we bring in people like those who are catalysts for societies. So, and the second part is, can the groundbreaking, I have answered it, it's social engineer. Second one is, can we
learned? It can be learned, or is it inbuilt in us?
Leaders are, it's again the same kind of a debate, are the leaders made or born? So there is no time is right and no time is wrong. Only your watch has the time. So you'll have to start with the time at your watch. These are my answers. Gurjeet may have her own
actually
perceptions.
not a different answer altogether, but yes, as Sir said that, see, two people sitting here, and humanities is such a versatile term that each one of us is likely to have our own answer to it. And that there comes the learning part of humanities. So the thing about humanities is that all those belief systems, that whether you are born noble or you are born bad, they are the things of the past, because they were that kind of thinking system made them burn the women when there was a belief system that women are only for family. So it happened in the United States, and not very late, early, it happened in the 18th century. So what they did was, all the women were not allowed to study or pursue knowledge or learn languages. So their only job was to be raised and sent to their husbands. So these were Puritan Christian societies of US at that point of time. So in Salem, what they did was, any women women were stereotyped of being less humans. So what happened, every time they showed curiosity of learning, they tried to mix some herbs to cure their child's sickness, they were dumped as witches and they were burned. So that kind of thinking that we are born in a certain way, it's very limiting. And today everything is made. So we are moving towards a time when we can teach people, we can help people to learn about themselves and to learn about their society. Remember that example we used, that the dynamite thing?
Yeah.
So using dynamite for clearing mountain for a road is humanities, but using dynamite to kill people is also humanities. So it's like, where does that ethical line is? That's what the difference is. Why we need humanities to be taught in the universities, and why companies are seeking people, because every company is profit driven. They do not want their product to be useless to the people. So if we provide them with the people, social engineers, as you said, people who are ethically grounded, who have learned that our collective survival depends on collaboration, they will give such solutions to those companies that are multiple.
Very right. I'll add to this, like Amazon recruit masters in public administration. As Nokia and Samsung recruit masters in anthropology.
Yes.
And all the corporates, they are recruiting masters of social work for their CSR activities. So there is no right time, no wrong time to start learning. I'll give my personal example. I never want to say, but I'll give my personal example. I am masters in physics. Then I did my masters in management. Then I did my doctorate in management. Then I learned, because of the flair of literature and others, I did my masters in literature in English. So the end point of the two questions you have asked, but the third point is, what is the solution? Even if it is inbuilt, or even if I have to acquire, what is the way? Keep on reading.
Yes.
Keep on reading. Make a timetable that you have to read something. Forget about what you are reading. Bring the habit of reading 1 or 2 or 3 pages daily of anything. It may be even a लिफाफा जिसमें आप मूंगफली खाते हो, मूंगफली खरीदते हो, वो लिफाफे को पढ़ लो. कोई पुराना न्यूज़पेपर है, उसको पढ़ लो 15 मिनट के लिए. Just keep on reading something, and you will have the ability to have the
your own
humanity.
idea of what humanities is. You will have it, and it is very good, because no one will ever take your skills away.
Yeah.
You may have, because what is in here once, it's there, and you keep on improving. That's what we do with our students at our group discussions. So sometimes they just go on and they keep on disagreeing, and those discussions even spill into our classes. So, but we just let them sit openly and figure it all out for themselves, because we are just here to show them, to make their own idea about humanities. I can't tell you, or sir can't, nobody can tell anyone what humanities is. You read, we'll show you some pathways that will be employable, that will utilize your time better, but ultimately the decision is yours. And where you want to go.
But one last example, which will very relate to the question, that can humanity, is humanity inbuilt, or what is the right time? Is it groundbreaking, or whether I just give you one example. There is a term which is called gay, lesbian, LGBT.
Yeah.
This was a term which has come up, although we have been discussing this behind closed door for so long.
Yeah.
But we have took the courage of discussing LGBT as a very proper topic in last 4 or 5 years only.
It's in my gender study syllabus.
4 or 5. So that means you cannot have inbuilt. You have to acquire it. With the times, humanities will keep on changing. The definitions will keep on changing. So my famous quote is, I wrote somewhere when I started writing initially, the definition of definition is changing. So that is basically humanity. So what Russia is wrong today, maybe USA was wrong yesterday. Ukraine has done today right, maybe wrong earlier. So definition of definition is changing. So answer is this one only. I do not, I'm sorry, we are giving long answers. But
we have a habit of getting carried away.
No issues, ma'am. No issues, sir. Thank you, sir. And we have another question again. And it says, do you think people making money are responsible for not growth, but taking nature for granted, as they use resources and do manhandling with them?
Capitalists.
capitalism. So
Can you repeat the question once again, please?
Yeah, sir, it says people who have a lot of money, they're not responsible for growth, but they take nature for granted and use resources and manhandles them.
So rich people using more of resources and not giving back to society.
giving back to society, yes.
There may be good answers, there may be bad answers. We have our Ambani ji around. He is very rich. He is taking from the society, but at the same time, let's see the contribution he has done to the society. I think the person who has written must also be using Geo phone. So that's giving back to society. So Geo revolutionized the telecom. So there may be good answers, there may be bad answers. Tata used to make only steel. Now Tata is operating into around 100 plus countries with so many diversified businesses. We cannot take
I think,
a stand that rich always take from the society. Yes, Americans, you may say that you have seen this Mark Zuckerberg being testified in US Senate, this Elon Musk going to, Jeff Bezos going to giving a testimony at Senate or few others. So that may come up with some kind of a thing that Dimag, this is Dimag is Google, Microsoft, Apple, or Giga Analytics or Dimag, the Tesla. Are these people utilizing more of the resources from the society and giving back less? There may be upward, there may be differentiation, but I say on a positive note, I'll always say that people give back to society. Yes, you may find number of examples where people do not give back to society. You may have so many people who have fled India after taking money from India from bank, and they are living luxurious life outside. I'll not like to mention them.
Just
Could
an
we have a
interjection here.
different-
Yes, this dichotomy we have of rich and poor. If you really think about it, and yes, you're very free to disagree and all. This very dichotomy of rich and poor. So it's like, let's say reverse the situation. If today's poor becomes tomorrow's rich, because look at all these rich people. Look at look at where Ambani's dad was. He rose from nothing. So it's like, if today's rich people are tomorrow's poor, and today's poor are they going to do anything different? So that is the question of ethics at the heart of everything. So the thing is, yes, there is one answer that yes, rich are in the position to utilize maximum resources, whereas they have not given back as much. And that also pertains to the kind of systems we have, the kind of, this entire social, political, economic system. So it's a systematic which positions some people in a better position to extract the resources and give back less. But on the other hand, do we have a vision to change this system? Like, if we do change, can we rid humanity of its greed? I mean, if you study a monkey holding 12 bananas at one time, monkey will be the topic of a study, but we have humans with billions and billions of dollars. Their multiple generations can eat, but still we celebrate their success. So it's like a systematic way of changing things, where if rich become responsible, and the rest of us have enough access to resources to utilize our needs, then this system will perform better in a way. So it's like the debate is as old as humanity itself. The entire stream of liberalism stands against Marxism on this very debate. Marxism says that rich are in the position, they are exploiting the poor, and on their exploitation, they are maximizing their profit. The liberals say, but if you stop human from producing, then that is also the violation of our very nature. That is, that if we are born on this planet, we are bound to mix our labor with something and create some value out of it. So the answer is not in the extremes, but some form of systematic ethical commitments, that if some rich is becoming greedy, we have a policy and accountable government and accountable people. So if the people are just in the line to आज उसका हो गया, कल को I become rich, I do the same. So
Yeah.
so then there is a problem. So it's like that's what my take on it is. Sorry for taking too much time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And sir, with this, we have last question. And basically, there are two questions, but I think they both are of the same topic. And it says, how does UN make sustainable development when there are trees cut regularly in US and all over the world, just to enclose two people in a large mansion? And addition to that, there was a question, sir. And despite being this big organization, environment is also regularly depriving. So I think they both are related, as in they're talking about the environment and the sustainable development.
Again, my answer, I'll start on a answer that United Nation is not a nation. United Nation is not owned by USA. So it is not like that. United Nation is not reciprocating the organization as such. Institution is not reciprocating or giving certain views that whether USA is doing right or wrong. So if something wrong is happening in USA, USA is also questioned. The country, the state, the leadership is also questioned in over there. Yes, pollution is a very big issue. That's why if you try to see one of the SDG is clean water, affordable and clean energy. These are sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action. These all are part of SDGs because you cannot mention only USA. All the Western nation, including Asians also. Stubble burning is a huge problem in this North India kind of a city. So North India kind of a state. So majority of countries do not take. That's where the question, one of the answers of the second question was, are we very lazy in implementing the policies? We can't give a very accurate answer on it. That's what humanities give you the ability. Humanity gives you the ability to see the both sides of the coin. So it is for you to decide which side of the coin you are going to toss for or which side of the coin you are going to lay down yourself for. So answer is, please do not say only USA. Majority of countries might be doing it. Near your vicinity also, someone must be burning the stubble, cutting the trees or something. Yes, there are questions. There is a summit for it, what you are referring to, which is cleanly and clearly projected towards clean environment and CF, that is chlorofluorocarbon, CFC,
Yes, yes.
CFC. That's another issue coming into. Let's not focus only on the green part. It has got its root everywhere, and many countries are doing it. Not only USA, many developed countries are doing it.
See, I think the question goes back to that age-old question: how do we reconcile ourselves with our environment? Like,
Yeah.
if you look at Eastern philosophy and the Western philosophy, in West, everything was redefined in the 16th, 17th, 18th century, the Renaissance, Reformation, and Industrial Revolution, right? In Eastern societies, if you look in the ancient times, you see that they were much more in tune with the nature than the Industrial Revolution happens. So there are some studies that say that the very egotistical individualism we all have, and it is the product of that time period, and it was born out of a context. It was born out of a context where the religious institute and the king were in cohorts with one another, and they were oppressing the simple people like you and me. हमें किससे शादी, who do we want to marry, the church will decide. How many children we should have, the king will decide. And whatever property you had, if the king liked it, he could take it. So you had no power over your life. So out of that oppression, a push came from the below in terms of Renaissance, Reformation, and that entire socio-cultural things that happened in Europe. That individualism. I am an individual. I have entitlement to certain resources of this planet because I'm born here. Now, context evaporated. Now that individual became greedy. As it accumulated, as the wealth accumulated, the individual also started buying newer democratic governments, and then the new cohorts emerged. So it's like humanities thing, and I might sound sorry if I sound a bit preachy here. Humanity's biggest conflict is within all of us. Every time I make little decisions, I am making a choice. Every time I leave the tab open, I'm making a choice. Every time I forget to turn off my light, forget is still a mistake, but it's like all of us have these conflicts. Sometimes we wanna do good, but we feel oppressed by the system to do bad. Like चोरी कर नहीं करना चाहते बट मेडिसिन देनी है घर पे माँ बीमार है लाइक बॉलीवुड एग्जांपल so the thing is this conflict is in us, it is in our society because our society is mirror of us, and these questions of pollution, SDGs, and who to blame. We are very quick on blaming governments, blaming rich, blaming poor, so it's like the question is within each and every one of us. And if that individualism saved Europe back in 18th century, now it is becoming a problem for us because that very individualism has made us very isolated from our environment. We don't respect nature. I'd rather have an AC in my room than to plant a tree under which shade I can sit. Punjab used to have a lot of boat trees. Nowhere you can find them. मेरे खुद के खेत में my brother he cut off the boat tree saying यार मेरी फसल खराब करता है, उसका shade रहता है उस पे. So, so the thing is, it's like the question is within us. So our systems and all, that's what humanities do. They expose us to everything, then we make our choices, and then we try to implement them at a bigger level.
Very right, very right.
Okay, so with this, sir, questions, I think there are no more questions now. And I'd like to thank you, ma'am, Gurjeet ma'am, Pavitra sir, for coming in, for giving your time, and for crediting your time for us, for the participants as well, of course, and for navigating all the students through the topic.
Thank you.
And you are a wonderful host.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Pleasure is mine.
So brilliantly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So with this, I take your permission to wrap this webinar up, sir. Ma'am,
Thank you.
can I?
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay, so last thank to all the participants, of course, for being here, for giving in your questions. All the questions are really appreciated. So until next webinar, stay safe, stay healthy. And last but not the least, this webinar, if you have missed some part of the webinar, this will be uploaded on YouTube and our site as well, lpu.in. And I've given the link also in the chat box. You can just explore the site. There are multiple webinars that are already planned. You can maybe register, it's all free, and gain as much as knowledge you want to.
Questions?
Okay, so with this, I thank all of you for joining in, and so thank you, and thank you, ma'am, again.
Okay.